learning how to recognize what you're feeling, name it to tame it, and so as to externalize the emotion so that you're not in it, but you become the witness of it. You're the observer of it. I'm Cathy, and I'm a somatic therapist. And I have a background in counseling, mental health. I've been working in mental health for 10 years now. Let's see. So apart from therapy, I also teach yoga and mindfulness, meditation. So I have an integrative approach to therapy, and I like to include these modalities into therapy, visualization, imagery, breathing exercises. And then I would say that specializing a lot in emotionally focused. So learning how to self-regulate the emotions. I'll also incorporate emotional freedom technique into the sessions, which is tapping on different meridian points in the body to release stress. And it's a form of exposure therapy because as you're tapping, you're also talking about uncomfortable memories and experiences that you've gone through. Yeah, I think the majority of the clientele I see struggle with anxiety, so generalized anxiety disorder and also trauma. That's what I'm seeing a lot of right now. And then apart from that, I'm a couples therapist. So I see couples and really working on communication, how to improve communication skills in relationships, and how to communicate needs, being aware of your needs to communicate them, and how to become a better listener to your partner. Yeah, so, when I meet a client for the first time, I share how my approach to therapy, and as I mentioned, it's very integrative. So it's not just one approach, but and that's kind of how I see self-healing too. It's to be very integrative and holistic. So I view therapy as two parts. One part is a space for people to process their emotions from experiences in the past, worries, concerns about the future, and of course the present moment, what they're going through, their challenges are in the present. And then the second part of the therapy is really skill building. So learning skills to self-regulate emotions, how to manage stress, manage anxiety. And so that's what I think is very important too, is being empowered so that you can sit with any emotion. I really think a big part of therapy is building a tolerance for all uncomfortable emotions. And many of us find healthy ways to cope with uncomfortable emotions and unhealthy ways. And some people try to avoid and escape and might find maladaptive coping mechanisms to escape and avoid feeling certain emotions. So a big part of the therapy is building a tolerance for the uncomfortable emotions and sitting with them. I think that's a big component of self-healing, is coming to that realization that we can be with the uncomfortable emotions. We can sit with it, and knowing that we're stronger than the emotion. We can self-regulate and manage them. They don't have to manage us. We can manage them. So I think that's a big part of self-healing, and really knowing, what speaks to you. So I also practice Reiki therapy, energy healing. I love to also receive it, but I also practice it, and it's very relaxing and restorative. That's, a healing art. So that speaks to me. And I also love massage therapy. I think that's great for relaxation. And so really knowing yourself, increasing your awareness on like what resonates with you, to come to a place of relaxation. And, this can be described as self-care, but really also self-love, like really taking time to nurture yourself. So I think self-nurturing is a big part of self-healing. And I would say like a big part is helping others increase their self-awareness, and to externalize what has happened to them so that they don't identify themselves with the trauma, that they can view it from a new lens. With the self-awareness piece, I think is huge. I feel like the correlation between self-awareness and self-esteem is very strong. The more that we're aware of ourselves, we can form a better sense of identity, and from that, self-respect and self-love. One of my goals for my clients is for them to increase their self-awareness. And with that, they're learning what speaks to them, like what they like. Do they enjoy dancing as a form of self-healing? That is a big component, I think, is increasing self-awareness and having them recognize their resilience. So knowing like what they've gone through and that they are showing up for themselves and taking care of themselves. And so recognizing that they have this inner strength and how resilient they are. So that's a big component of my approach as well. Is it's very strength based. So sometimes I'll have clients take a strengths inventory so that they can actually see their top 10 strengths that they have. Sometimes we do value exploration so that they are really aware of what their top values are. And I think they act like a GPS for our life, like they're a compass. We thrive, we find more meaning when we live our lives according to our values. So I do love the emotional freedom technique, tapping, to process emotions and release the emotions. So that would be, the first step in tapping is really, even though I'm feeling fill in the blank, like stressed, anxious, and then you follow that up with saying, I love and accept myself. And so it starts with self-love, and not everyone is there. I've worked with people who that statement doesn't resonate for them in the beginning, but we work towards that. And so we can say, even though I'm feeling stressed, anxious, I'm working towards loving and accepting myself, or knowing that there is a part of them that does love and accept themselves. So parts work is also something, is a modality that I use a lot, internal family system. So, recognizing that we're made up of different parts. We might have an anxious part, we might have a depressed part. We also might have this very beautiful creative part, or an ambitious part, and our inner child part of us. So it's really becoming aware of all the parts that we're made up of, and which parts are active today, which ones are taking the back row, and which ones do you want to call in and activate. So parts work is for me personally, and seeing it, I think really helpful in therapy. I also practice CBT therapy. So having people become aware of their thought patterns and how their thoughts might impact their behavior, and looking at that towards in contrast with the reality. And so we look at are their thoughts rational or irrational thoughts? And then the somatic is, getting in tune with where you feel certain emotions in your body. When we cry or when we feel sadness, we tear up. Like our eyes tear up, and it's not something we do intentionally, but it's our body reacting to that emotion. Same thing sometimes, when we're very sad, we might feel our throat constrict. When we're anxious, we might feel our heart beat faster or our breath shorten. So when we can make that connection, it can inform us on what we're feeling as well. And so a big component of what I teach in therapy is learning how to recognize what you're feeling, name it to tame it, and so as to externalize the emotion, so that you're not in it, but you become the witness of it, you're the observer of it. And so a lot of what I teach is trying to externalize the emotions, and as a part of self-regulating them. So with couples and family therapy, a big emphasis is on communication and improving communication skills. One of the things that it's very Gottman based. So the Gottmans are this couple that, had a love lab in Seattle, and they had cameras and observed different couples for a period of time. And so that it's evidence-based. So they found what works for relationships to thrive, and what predictors there are for relationships to not do so well. And so what they found are that resentment is a big predictor of divorce or a relationship not working out. So with that, some things in communication that we look out for is starting phrases, conversations with contempt or criticism. And so we will look out for that, and how can we replace that? So then you would replace it with speaking from your experience and what you're needing. Instead of starting a sentence with you blaming, you start the sentence with I'm feeling X, Y, and Z. I'm needing more support. And so that's kind of a big component of improving your communication skills with your partner. And then these are called the 4 horsemen. So things to watch out for: contempt and criticism. And then there's defensiveness and stonewalling. So defensiveness would be to not take any accountability for your actions or what's going on in the relationship. And then stonewalling is kind of retreating, the silent treatment. And so teaching like the antidotes to each of them. So with defensiveness is like learning to take accountability, take ownership for a part of what's happening. And then with stonewalling, it's communicating your needs, that you need some space right now, and maybe being specific with like, I need an hour, or I'm going to need 2 hours to self-reflect and self-regulate. So those are antidotes to the 4 horsemen that I teach and find really helpful in relationships. With self-healing, self-compassion is a big component of self-healing. And with that, you make time in your schedule to prioritize your needs and prioritize your care. And then I think self-awareness is huge for, like I mentioned, your self-esteem and self-confidence. So learning more about yourself, curiosity, becoming curious about your needs, your interests, your values. Yeah, I also think it's understanding, being resilient. So your inner resources, being able to self-regulate when you have those uncomfortable emotions, and being able to sit with them, and knowing that feeling empowered, that you can withstand difficult moments, difficult challenges. I'd say that, try therapy. And if the first person that you go to, the first therapist that you go to, doesn't resonate with you, don't let that stop you from, finding one that does. Because, I think it's just with anything, it's like trying to find a perfect fit that works, that resonates with you. There's so many different healing modalities out there. So really taking time to explore. And I know it can feel overwhelming in the beginning. So, that would be a good time to like reach out to people you trust and feel comfortable with, to seeing, what's worked for them, what they found. So I think community is super important, and finding people, supportive friend group, community is really important with healing too.